I'm at the end of a training block and I'm currently in the recovery week. I'll start my next block next week with the ramp test. The Sunday ride is easy and Monday is off, and I will do the ramp test on Tuesday. So my question, the day before a race, I always go out and do a 20 to 30 minute ride with a few openers to get my legs ready for race intensity. Before we go any further, can you explain what openers are? Because we get that question quite a lot.
Yeah, more or less is what you're doing is you're going to prep a bunch of your systems that you're going through, and you kind of run through your rev range if you're in a car, right? Like, so it's like going all the way up to red line. You're not hanging out a bunch of time at that high intensity, but different people like different things. For example, I like the 5-minute ramp up slightly above threshold, and then a couple 30-second really hards, but never enough that it's actually taxing the system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I don't like them. They make my legs sore.
Yeah, and everybody's a little different.
Yeah, I like them, but I don't go overboard. In fact, I have a workout that I usually do for openers. It's called Crane. And sorry, Tucker, for not linking this one. I'm sure he'll pull it up here on the screen if you're watching on YouTube.
He's got it. Look at that.
So if you're watching on YouTube, then you'll be able to see what this interval structure looks like. And it basically, so that's what I usually schedule for openers, but it's rare that I finish it.
Yeah, I was going to say.
It's not because like I feel like I just can't make it through. It's not that hard. It's just I purely go on feel. And when I feel like that's enough, I cut it there.
I think that's a really good rule of thumb for most people is when you are doing openers, as soon as you feel like it's actually painful, like you're doing an effort that's painful, that's when you should cut it.
Yeah.
And that's far enough. Your system will rev up, and you'll be able to remember that the next day.
Yeah, I've noticed, I do feel like it helps, but I have zero data to back that up. and I don't know if it's just psychological. Yeah, right. Yeah.
We don't allow that
we've never
on this podcast.
We've never said that before. But I certainly admit and think it's a good thing that I do believe that it helps me psychologically. And I think that that's, if anything, justification to explore that if you haven't already, just to see how it helps you.
It's a good equipment check too.
That's a really good point. You know, figure out if things work. We've never made that mistake either before. So he says, my question, the day, or forgive me, scrolling past that, he says, it would make sense to me to do the same thing before the day before a ramp test.
Ding.
I've been going easy all week, and now I'm going all out for the ramp test.
Not ding. Yeah, unding.
Yes.
I mean the same thing every time.
Yeah, he says, I've been going easy all week, and now I'm going all out for the ramp test, and it seems like it would be a shock to the system. Race Logic says to do openers, but I've never heard you mention this before.
Yeah, the openers are too more like anaerobic rather than just like a VO2 max. I don't know if there's such thing as like a VO2 max opener, but this is how we designed it. So we're not... It sounds funny, but you're not trying to... Okay, so let me step back. The way we designed it is we had a whole bunch of people do ramp tests, see what their performance is on TrainerRoad workouts subsequent to that, how they do, building through a plan. And then we reverse engineered what is the right number to FTP so they're successful in TrainerRoad workouts, and then that just makes them faster.
Yeah.
And if I can add just one thing to that, it wasn't just finding it so that they could make every workout like checkbox done. It was fine. There's also a floor to that as well. It wasn't like we just kept dropping it until it was easy.
No, yeah. There's a right level. And if you've done the ramp test, you should know the workouts are still hard. Mm-hmm. So we find that level and we go forward. Now, that doesn't mean that you need to, like your ramp test is your A test. Because when we did this, people just did this in the middle of their training or after the recovery week like this. They didn't do it when they're like after a hard workout, but when they're feeling okay. Mm-hmm. So before the ramp test, I think you should keep it consistent all the time. And if you think that the ramp test, like you can't do workouts afterwards, we have some really interesting data in the future. And I think it's going to change a whole bunch of stuff. But some people, your lifestyle and volume can influence how you do workouts in the future, right? Mm-hmm. So you do the ramp test and you high volume, and you go, it's overestimating my FTP because I can't do high volume. Well, maybe that's because you sleep 6 hours a night, right? And don't eat well.
There's so many other things other than just the intensity.
And have a stress, right? And there's the repeatability side of it too. So that's where going in the workouts and picking the right volume and all this sort of stuff, and we'll build you through. But if you always do, whatever you always do for the ramp test, keep it consistent. So if you want to do an opener, you can, but it's not recommended, and we tell you don't need to do it, and it's not designed to do that. But if you do that and you get your like a higher number than normal, which I don't think you would anyways, just maybe bump it down. And then why would you do it?
Sure.
Why would you do it if you can't do the workouts? Why do you get a higher ramp test? I wouldn't do beet juice and caffeine before every ramp test unless you always do it. Then you always do it before every workout.
Yes.
So whatever the state you're in. right?
Exactly. I was going to say that's the important part is whatever you do before every single workout is what you do before the ramp test. Right?
Keep it the same.
Keep it the same.
Exactly.
And you don't have to. And the one of the reasons that we actually developed the ramp test, and Pete, this was your project, really, your first one.
It was
really
the first
here.
one I did at TrainerRoad.
Big one.
Big one. And one of the main things that we wanted to find with all of this is the whole point was to get people with more consistent training that's better for where they need to be, because sustained tests are really difficult for everybody to execute properly on. And with a sustained test, you do have to argue the point of like, you do get closer to that argument of, yeah, freshness really does matter. Or like a person coming in absolute peak form, it does matter. Or the opposite, if they aren't doing well, it's much less likely that they're going to be able to execute a test that actually puts them to their potential. And the ramp test was one of the reasons behind the ramp test was to make it so that more people in a variety of circumstances could get closer to where they need to be. And it's part of that nature is that it's a shorter test. It's the ramp. It doesn't require on your ability to pace, which is so hard. No matter how experienced you are, pacing is really difficult.
Look at our TT files.
Right? Yeah, right.
We even have a number in mind.
Yeah. And to his exact point, Pete, you remember this when I first did the ramp test and we were testing it and everything else. I was like, that was terrible.
Oh, you got so mad at me.
I was upset. I was like, I had no warm up. I felt terrible. That test was garbage. I think the numbers are terrible from it.
Yep.
And then you guys challenged me. You said, okay, just do it with a warm up then.
Do whatever you want.
See how it goes. And I warmed up adequately. I went through the test and I was like, oh, I feel wonderful. And then at the end of the test, I got the same exact number.
2 days later, right?
Yeah.
2 days later.
Exact number.
And I was like, oh man, I'm so wrong. So there's part of even that, like if you don't feel good during a ramp test going into it, don't just turn it off and assume it's bad. Just once again, the point of the ramp test is to go until you absolutely can't go anymore. Give it a shot. Go through with it. It's not going to ruin you like a 20-minute interval is if you're coming in really fatigued. And see what it is. My wife even, kudos to her, by the way, in 1 month, she's gotten an 11% boost on the on her FTP. Yeah.
Damn.
She's following the sprint plan.
Can you imagine?
I know, right? Yeah, following the sprint tri plan. And it's really like the first crack at like structured training that she's done, which is pretty cool. But she was even mentioning, she's like, yeah, I like did not feel good going through it, but I just, I kept going. And
No one feels good.
that's the thing, yeah.
Ever.
Also, something
Like twice a year, I feel good.
Yeah, exactly.
Seriously.
And so, I was actually thinking about this the other day. And sometimes, like, we talk about those chainless days. I feel like these days I don't have many chainless days. I'll have a chainless moment. And then after that chainless moment, the day is bad. Like,
Yeah,
it's like,
totally.
It's hard after
race,
that.
You're like, for the 1 minute of your attack, you're like, this is easy.
Yeah.
And then reality sets in.
The final little thing that I wanted to add personally just to the ramp test is remember that it's actually, we're saying that it's hard, but realistically speaking, it doesn't feel extremely hard until like those final few minutes.
2 minutes of hard.
Yeah, really.
It's like racing your friends up a 2-minute hill on like a group ride,
Yep.
and you just are hard as you can. That's what it's like.
Yeah. So it makes it so that it doesn't throw off your training. It's just it's a way better option. And I think it's an option that a lot of people would see. If you switch to that, you'll see a lot of improvement in your training after that.
That being said, too, like we'll be better at this, but as you're going through your plans and if you have issues, right? Like we just talked about some lifestyle issues. I just read something, someone was doing CrossFit 3 times a day, and they're like, these long thresholds.
3 times a day?
3 times a week.
Rhabdo.
And they're having problems doing some of these threshold efforts and stuff.
Yeah.
Like to be like, yes, of course you would.
Yes.
Right? And if that's the case, well, you can make the decision. Should I change do less CrossFit? Or maybe I lower the intensity, or I pick easier workouts. Those are kind of the 3 different ways. And or you could even lower your FTP so that all the workouts are easier. That is fine. And if you think it's not hard enough, you could always raise your FTP a bunch. You can make these little micro decisions as you go through your plan to make things harder or easier. For most people, it's not needed, but for others, like if you think that you're different, I can't use. So we used Special Snowflake before.
Yeah.
When I was growing up, Special Snowflake meant you are unique. And now there's like this political thing that means like you're like
it's a non-touch item.
I don't know, someone that like gets triggered or like,
something.
I was just meaning you were unique.
Yeah,
if
that's all we really meant with it.
Yeah, exactly. That's the saying. So,
but politics will hijack anything and ruin it, won't they?
We were like, oh shoot! I like realized it afterwards.
We felt so bad. Yeah, we didn't mean it.
We didn't mean it. Anyways, if you do think you're unique, you can always adjust things a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
But you got to look at your lifestyle and stuff too. So that's just it gets you started, and then you move through it. For most people, you don't have to touch a thing, and like we have lots and lots of data that for most people you don't have to do anything. But if you're on the outsides, you can always tweak it up a couple watts. Right?
Yeah. And one thing to remember, Pete, to directly answer your question, I don't think that you need openers. That said, if you do them, just make sure that's consistent.
Yeah,
well, not for every workout.
Well, that's just the thing, though. Like, if you do openers before a ramp test,
always do them.
You know, that's the thing. Just always make sure that you're doing it before every ramp test. But at least take, and I was severely tied to this. I thought that it was absolutely the case that I needed a warm up in order to get the most out of myself, and I didn't. So just for what it's worth, that's my N=1 there on that.
You thought you needed an extended warm up.
Yeah,
I did. Yeah, because you still get time to warm up leading into it, but. Yeah.
Even the first steps are warm up.
Yeah. And I think the one last thing that's really important is don't game the system on the ramp test. Like, you're only going to short yourself. Just anchor your training with your ramp test. Do your workouts. Everything will work really well.
Yes. And the way you know you're gaming it too is like in sweet spot, it's a little bit hard, right? Because you can do those workouts a little bit harder, but it starts to catch up. But in general build and specialty, if you're over the FTP, you're not going to finish. Or like you're not going to complete past your workouts. So you don't want that, like where you're not finishing your workouts. And if you're consistently not finishing your workouts, I've said this already, but I'm going to say it some more. Look at the things in your life.
Yes.
Look at those first, and then adjust your watts, a couple watts, like 5 watts or whatever. We get this. It's easy. I'm not even going to say it. So yeah, just look at the things in your life.
Yep.
Diet, time of day, sleep. The other thing I was going to say, I'm lifting some weights, as you can all tell on the video.
And sure, it's so tight.
Just kidding. It's medium, dude.
It's great.
I'm going to start wearing Chad Smalls.
Now we're going to just have people flooding into the live streams now. Right there.
I did deadlifts the night before a Eclipse, and usually, man, sweet spot. I am a sweet spot killer.
Yeah, you're good.
I like destroy it. Yeah. And I didn't even do that many deadlifts, but and I've been doing deadlifts for a while now. I just didn't time it correctly, and it totally impacted my ride. So much so that I was like, wow, this is like threshold. Yeah. Right? And it's because I did the night before. And this is the timing that I found works really well for me. I have no data to back this up, but it's just for me. Well, I do. For me, it does. I do have data on that. Yeah. If you go hard, like you go hard, aerobic hard, I like to do it immediately after the hard workout to give myself as much time until the next hard.
Yep.
I did it after the aerobic ride, and then I have a hard the next day. That's not enough time.
Right.
And what you just have to think in your brain is, this will impact my aerobic ride, and it's going to be a little bit harder.
Yeah.
But usually the aerobic rides are not so hard that you can't have a little extra gusto. But if you don't eat well too, I found, especially depending on how hard you lift your legs, the aerobic ride can be crushing. And then you're like, you doubt yourself as an athlete.
Yes.
Should I be doing this?
Everything falls
CrossFit
apart.
does sound pretty good.
Yeah.
Right, let's do that.
Yep.
Anyway, so that's a cool technique. And then I found too, for upper body, I'm fine. Upper body, I can't do the day before, especially like at lunchtime. If I can't lift at lunch and then have like an afternoon workout, because it just drains the system. But the day before, the night before, I can lift upper body. You know, everything gets replenished. I sleep, and then it doesn't impact my ride at all.
Yeah.
And you're kind of capping your lifting at about 30 minutes, right?
Yeah, I'm not doing.
Yeah.
I'm in college. I used to do like 2 hours at a time, just like all the sets.
It's because there's other things to do while you're standing at the gym in college.
No, there wasn't. I didn't have iPhones or anything. Seriously, I had a shuffle.
You just
Yeah.
Nice.
Not even that. Actually, I remember. Side note: I remember in college seeing the first person with the first iPod.
Yeah,
and I was like so jealous. Everyone else had CDs.
That circle scroller.
You get a CD that would go sideways, and you're like, "Whoa!" Pete, you were saying yes. Both you guys are too young.
No, I had a Walkman for a long time.
Same.
The tape or CD?
Tape
And CD.
Yeah,
I had both.
Mine was yellow.
Oh,
and mine too. Mine was
I wanted the yellow so bad.
Yeah.
I just had black.
That's very on brand for you. Even as a little kid.
From a little kid.
I want a black one.
You guys have this in black?
Exactly.
Matte black, please.
We've really gone off the rails.
That was a ramp test question.
This is where Chad rolls his eyes.
Yes. This is what happens when Chad isn't here. One thing I want to ask really quick, because I just want to hit home this same point of the other things in your life. And I want to hear from you guys, if you could pick one thing that has made a big enough, like the biggest difference, so to speak, off the bike in terms of making your workouts more completable. What has it been? Like sleep, nutrition, or anything like that?
I was just
PT?
telling Tucker when we walked in that I adhere to my 9 p.m. bedtime very strictly now. I get into bed at 8:45 and I read until I get sleepy, which is usually 9 o'clock, and it's lights out. And then I wake up with no alarm at 5:30.
What?
I feel
That sounds
really good.
amazing.
It's really nice. But it took like a year of struggling to get into that groove.
Yeah.
But now I get really sleepy at like 8:15, 8:30. Get ready for bed, get into bed, read, and then I'm out. And I don't have the struggles of falling asleep like I used to. I used to go to sleep at about 11 or midnight pretty much for the last 10 years. And then I've swapped, and I feel so much better in the morning. All my workouts are pretty doable. I don't know. It was the single biggest change for me that I've done.
Cool. Nate, you?
Drugs. Just kidding. Just kidding.
My eyes just got huge. It's like, whoa. So,
Obviously, it's been eating. So
Yeah.
fruits, vegetables, whole grains. And then for me, it's the 3 to 4 hours before. If I don't hit that 3 to 4 hours, like a high carb meal, for lunch, I've been doing just a sweet potato with like black beans. That's pretty much it. Sometimes a vegetable soup with that. Kind of go lower meat, do some of my meat after the ride if I'm going to do meat that day, and then make sure it's like a 20-gram dose, like a leucine bump, depending on what it is. I don't know if I said that right. Leucine? Is that how I say it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I don't.
sure-
you
I'm
read
sure-
words in your head.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, I'm like-
Yeah,
And
totally.
you're like, oh my God, I just said that.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
That's all
yeah.
I've said in my head. I don't know how to pronounce it.
Yeah.
So that's the eating thing is huge, and thanks to like a lot of people. It's probably just because I say it, but a lot of people message me. It is because I say it about they've done the same thing, and then Sweet Swap becomes easy.
Yeah.
And it is not that hard. You put some music on, and you eat correctly, and it's very easy to do.
Yeah, being adequately fueled.
Yeah.
It makes a huge difference. I just to be different then, because definitely the biggest one for me has been fueling my workouts and during those workouts too. That's been a big change of doing that. But quality of food, I've just noticed a huge difference. Like if I stick to whole foods, and we all like we're great for a while, and then we'll fall off for a bit and come back. But if I stick to whole foods and I make sure that happens, everything is easier in my workouts. I can still even hit, like, you could almost, probably not macros, but like you can get kind of close on the macros, but still eat some garbage, and make through with it.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't feel the same on the bike. And once again, that could totally be in my head. I don't know, but I think science pretty well backs up that better high quality foods make performance better. So that's been like one huge thing for me. When I do that, it's just better off across the board.
You also feel better in regular life too. Like not only training, eating really well, you feel better. Like your brain functions better at work. You like everything in your life is slightly easier. So
Yeah.
And then here's the best part: if you do it for enough time, the unhealthy food that tasted so well before tastes like
bad.
garbage.
Yes.
There's like this switch that happens. You're like, oh, that's garbage.
Yeah, if you don't like like whole, if you don't like kale, if you don't like a lot of that stuff at first, your taste buds will change.
Yeah, people,
like
someone
it
said,
happens.
I don't know if I tell the story yet, but someone was like, I had Ezekiel cereal that Nate recommended.
Yeah.
It tastes like cardboard. That's because there's no sugar in it.
Yeah.
It's just like a mix of whole grains, whatever there's 7-Eleven
Yeah.
or whatever there are. But after you do that for a while, and then you eat like a sugary cereal, you're like, you can't even like
The sugary
ugh.
cereal, you can't do it.
Yeah, it's too much sugar.
And if you do need to sweeten something up at first, a great way to do it is just to toss in berries, right? Like
Yeah, or
something
bananas.
natural. Yep, banana.
And they also have fiber in it too, which is very good.
Yeah.
And then antioxidants that are good too. The one exception to this is if you're drinking. This is how to fall off the wagon. You have a couple, like on Sunday. Ooh, I'm already worried. Yeah. I just looked at the place. It's like a tavern, a lot of fried food.
Yeah.
You drink some beers, and then someone puts down like a whole thing of French fries, and you just did a ride.
And you're like, yes.
Yes, and then the French
This is
fries start
perfect.
to like taste like they taste good, and then you're like the next day, side salad or French fries? Like,
Definitely
yeah.
fries.
So you
Yeah.
got to watch out for that.
It's the cascade. So hopefully that helps. And Pete, just once again, recapping on directly to your point of the question, we designed the test so that you don't need a warm up, or I should say even openers the day before. But if you feel like you need them, just be consistent every time you test. If you like that video, subscribe to our channel and give it a like and even a comment down below.
if you want to check out more race analysis videos, click on me.
And if you want your coaching questions answered, click on me.
And if you want to become a faster cyclist, head over to TrainerRoad.com.